lavish amenities included a temple-like, oh yeah, I forgot about the temple, a temple-like massage cabana, a movie theater, and a swimming pool with underwater tiles depicting nude models. Epstein is this is a quote from the Daily Beast in March of 2019. Epstein is a registered sex offender in New York and Florida. He's apparently kept a low profile in recent years, and in his annual sex offender registrations, listed his primary address as Little St. James, his private island. We haven't got to the part where he's registered yet, but that's coming.
Yeah.
Victoria's Secret models were among the guests a former Epstein employee saw there, and billionaire Les Wexner visited the island at least once. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, paid at least one visit aboard Epstein's private jet to the island, although former staff said he visited Little St. James several times. In 2002, a 14-year-old girl's parents report she was molested by Epstein at his Palm Beach mansion. Police investigate, but face pressure from Epstein's attorneys and fail to obtain an arrest warrant. So
How is
basically,
that
he's...
Isn't that fucking crazy?
How is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
It's
possible?
so wild.
The parents are like, yeah, that guy, he did it. We witnessed it. And then the police, like, still get so throttled by lawyers. They're like, sorry, we can't do anything. Like,
Multiple girls as well. Multiple girls.
yeah, this was happening all the time. Like, he was openly molesting people, get them to come to the island, and over just gets away with it.
It's actually insane. It's so disgusting. And yeah, like you said at the start, it's eye-opening. You know, this was the very
Yeah,
first case
yeah.
where I was like, holy shit, there is actually like a pedophile upper elite that's like controlling shit. It's crazy.
Untouchable just because of their power and influence.
Yeah.
This is like, not to get too depressing, this is like the reason I quit keeping up with elections or government or anything. I'm just like, what, who cares? Like, if people could do this level of abhorrence and just walk off, like, good God, man. Anyway.
What power do we have? Yeah.
Exactly,
It's, like,
yeah.
scary.
Other than things I can't talk about on the podcast, things I can't say on the internet. Well, that's a good
That was a
question,
good
Jackson.
idea.
What power do we have? That leads me into my main point of today's meeting.
I don't know. I wish we had more power.
So, in 2005, another underage girl files a lawsuit against Epstein alleging sexual abuse. This sparks a renewed investigation by Palm Beach police. Palm Beach detectives interview multiple victims and witnesses, uncovering a pattern of Epstein luring underage girls to his home for massages and sexual encounters. They gather physical evidence and electronic records supporting the accusations. So then finally, in May of 2006, Palm Beach police arrest Epstein on charges of unlawful sex with a minor. However, the state attorney's office opts for a plea deal instead of pursuing a trial. Instead of pursuing a trial based on the strong evidence, State Attorney Barry Krischer strikes a controversial plea deal with Epstein's defense team.
Are you guys ready to get mad? I'm ready to get mad.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, I
Here we
love
go.
this next paragraph.
Epstein pleads guilty to one count of soliciting prostitution and one count of soliciting prostitution from a minor, receiving a lenient sentence of 18 months in prison with work release and having to file as a sex offender. The work release allowed Epstein to leave 6 days a week for 12 hours a day. He was transported by his own limousine and would often stop by his home for hours at a time. He only ends up serving 13 months.
So he doesn't even serve the full amount of time, which is he's free to leave 6 days a week. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, he basically got a summer camp sentence.
Yeah, he spends a year doing like sleepovers at night. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so aggravating, man.
Have you looked into the state attorney Barry Krischer recently? Like, what does he have to say about that? Because no doubt he's complicit now in a ton of other victims, because you know for the 12 hours, 6 days a week that he was at his place, he was 100% sexually abusing more young girls. Like, what does Barry have to say?
I thought there was additional stuff with Barry. I might be misremembering. I think it was the no, I'm thinking of Alexander Acosta. Never mind. I don't have any other supporting details about Barry Krischer, but that would be a good follow-up. Yeah.
I'd be super curious on what he has to say about that sentencing and how he came to that as a just punishment.
I think
for the crime.
I think I just Googled him and found his home address.
We can go ask him in person.
The plea deal included a non-prosecution agreement that granted immunity to, quote, potential co-conspirators named by Epstein. This meant that individuals potentially involved in Epstein's crimes could not be charged based on any information he provided. The victims were not informed or consulted about the plea deal, violating their rights under the Crime Victims' Rights Act. This meant they had no opportunity to object or provide input into the agreement that significantly impacted their case. The plea deal and Epstein's light sentence sparked widespread criticism. Many felt the punishment did not reflect the seriousness of the crimes and raised concerns about Epstein's wealth and influence shaping the outcome of the case. Following Epstein's release, although Maxwell continued to attend prominent social functions, she and Epstein were no longer seen together, at least publicly. So,
yeah, Trouble in Paradise.
Trouble in Paradise. Basically, all these girls, these young girls become a victim of this monster, and then the courts, without consulting them about the deal like they're supposed to, just say that they'll do this short deal, and none of the co-conspirators will get in trouble. So,
I mean, obviously this plea deal, let's say, was intended to protect a lot of very powerful people. I think that's pretty obvious looking back. But like, even in the writing right here, what is the point of getting the names of people involved in Epstein's case, but then like not being able to charge them? I don't understand what purpose there would even be for saying that, or making that part of the obligation. It's so weird.
It's so the whole like conspirators won't be named immunity, that happens in deals a lot, but not deals like this, like when it is a known ring or continuation of like like sure, they'll do this with like drug trafficking, but not with like child molesting, you know, like they try to get as many people as they can.
I thought it was the other way around usually. Like if you take a plea deal, then you're safe, but your co-conspirators are the ones that get in
that's
trouble.
Normally
this is the
how
other
it goes
way
down.
around.
Yeah, this is the other way around. I did it, but no one I know gets in trouble.
Yeah, that's so weird.
That's probably a part that his attorneys negotiated in, because his attorneys was also probably their attorneys. So they're like, okay, we're not doing this whole deal unless everyone else gets to stay out of it too.
Yeah, and it's probably like, maybe if that were the case, Epstein wanted that in there to protect himself so that other powerful people didn't maybe unalive him somehow after the fact. You know,
yeah, that's crazy.
At the time in 2009. Yeah, couldn't see that happening.
Anyway, I wonder if that'll go anywhere. On to the next paragraph.
Yeah.
So before doing the next paragraph, I see that we're getting to like the arrest and all of that. I think it's important that we really explain what Epstein did with all of the very powerful celebrities that you keep seeing names tossed around of. So since he had all of these really powerful connections, he would leverage that to get these big celebrities to hang out with him, fly to his island with them where they'd vacation and shit. And he kept extensive records of that. So right now you can just go and look at the actual flight logs for who boarded, when, where, all of that. And among those names are some really powerful and well-known celebrities like Chris Tucker's on there, Trump's on there, tons of people. Kevin Spacey's on there, which is why you see so many celebrities always referenced when Epstein's brought up. And what they did, Matt Groening, I'll tell that story because that's a fucking wild one. Like, what they would do is they'd fly on his plane and either go to the island or just fly on the plane with him, but he would often have, like, the underage girls on the plane with him and offer massages, which it's basically sex. In the case of Matt Groening, a story was told that he had his feet massaged by one of the girls, and she said that his feet smelled so bad she had to keep fighting the urge to vomit. And all of this is like public information now that Matt Groening was there. He's on the manifest in the logs. This story is out from one of the victims, and he's still totally fucking fine. So all of these celebrities whose names appear on this list, they don't face any repercussions. And there's always the cope from fans of the celebrity that like, oh, they must not have known what was going on. Which always blows my fucking mind because the plane was literally called the Lolita Express. Like, there's no way you wouldn't know what's happening, especially with like underage girls acting as flight attendants offering massages. It's ridiculous to even make the claim. So I just wanted to explain.
There was just a bunch of 12-year-old girls on the plane, Charlie. What? You think they were doing something weird with them? You think those girls were there on their own volition on a summer job?
That was wrong of me to even insinuate. I guess I was so stupid.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's why like so many celebrities are always associated with the Jeffrey Epstein list. It includes so many of them in those logs. It's a really extensive list of them, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Just some of the more prominent ones that keep getting
Yeah,
mentioned
I have a
every time
list.
it comes up.
I have a list further down of the, like some of the most notable ones. But yeah, like trying to put myself in that like situation. If I hopped on a plane, like if I walked up the ramp of a private plane and the entire plane was like, you know, operated by 12, 13-year-old girls, I'd be like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm out of here. Fuck that.
No, thank you. Like,
Yeah, I'll take the next flight.
is Chris Hansen on here somewhere? What the heck? Like,
He's the pilot.
yeah.
It's just something that
He's
I
got
always
a
have
little
to mention
suit
because
on.
I keep seeing people say like, oh, they might not have known. It's like, no,
Yeah.
there's really no wiggle room for them to be somehow innocent here. Even if they didn't fuck one of the kids, they knew something fishy was going on.
I
and still
think
did
what
nothing
happened
about
to
it.
a lot of people, because some of them have come out and talked about this, right? I think they were told like, oh yeah, there's this island, we should go hang out, and then they go and they see a bunch of like underage girls around, and they suspect something's up, and they don't say anything. I think
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
that's the most charitable explanation I can give, that they were cowards.
Yeah, that's David Copperfield getting a lot of heat for that right now, because in the newer reports he even mentioned that he was at least somewhat loosely aware that some of the girls were recruiting other girls for this stuff, and he still did nothing about it. Like, it's ridiculous. There's no one innocent on Jeffrey Epstein's flight
Yeah,
logs.
yeah.
There's nobody that's somehow
Even Stephen
not.
Hawking.
Yep, they got it.
Yeah, well, Stephen Hawking was photographed on his
Those
island.
pictures are
and
pretty
then-
funny, I will admit. Of like
Those pictures are wild.
of him in
I
the
haven't seen the
submarine,
pictures.
like, bro, there's
Aw.
pictures of like
Yeah, no,
Steve. I'll get you a couple to put in the episode, but there's like pictures
Yeah,
that
yeah.
came out of him like chilling by the pool, and they got a little submarine and like put him inside of it. Like it's very surreal.
At least the island was
so,
like
like-
handicap friendly then. That's a positive element.
He's mentioned it.
They had a
He's
ramp.
mentioned in the most recent reports, but not as like someone who was engaging with the miners or anything. He's mentioned in one of the emails saying that there was like shit, like it's from Jeffrey Epstein if I remember correctly, saying that they needed to shut down some rumors or allegations, and then he mentioned Stephen Hawking's in relation to an underage orgy, and then his name appears again as a request for further information. But there are photographs of him on Epstein's island, so it is very weird.
So the idea is that Epstein was talking about, hey, there's a rumor of like there's a rumor circulating currently of Hawking in an underage orgy on our island, and that doesn't necessarily mean the rumor's false. I mean, if the rumor's being spread about that,
Yeah.
through even their powerful connections or whatever, I think that's pretty believable, honestly.
No, it is. It's just it wasn't like confirmed
confirmed,
that
yeah.
Stephen Hawking engaged in it, but it is confirmed that Stephen Hawking did go to the island.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's no, I mean, apart from like the things like the foot massage for Matt Groening, there's no direct
Yeah.
confirmation of these powerful individuals usually doing anything. Like there's witness accounts from some of the victims for people like what's his name, Prince Andrew and stuff like that, but most of them go by without direct witness testimonials of that sort. It's just the flight logs. But like Charlie said, it's very hard to believe that they're completely innocent, given just how connected this powerful group of people were and how close they were in order to be going to like the island and stuff. And again, it just the circumstances surrounding it, it's way more likely, in my opinion, and I guess Charlie's opinion, that they were at least connected to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, complicit at the very, like, absolutely. Like, in the documents, there's a lot of names that get thrown around, like George Lucas's name gets tossed around. It's like, did you see George Lucas there? No, stuff like that. Or, like, did Michael Jackson ever engage with any of the victims? And the victim responded with no, they didn't see anything like that. But even still, the fact that these people flew with Epstein, I just think that you can't write that off as just like, oh, they didn't know, they were going for the atmosphere of fucking pedophile
Yeah,
island.
I heard that apparently Epstein would do this thing to try to get buddy with like actors and stuff, where he'd be like, oh, you got to fly to LA? Here, let my flight get you. So like there were a couple people
Yeah,
who
yeah.
just like got shuttled by the planes, and that's fine, you know, like, oh, this guy's got a private jet, why not? I think So I think like sure whatever, but if someone actually went to the island, I don't really think they have any excuse.
Yeah.
At least
I
again,
agree.
maybe they didn't participate like you said, but at least an excuse about not saying anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's just like I really feel like this is just like an upper elite of pedophiles that all know, like they all know, they all like have dirt on each other and stuff like that. They're on a different plane of existence basically. Let's go on to yeah, we talked about the plea deal. Let's go the final arrest and death. So between 2006 and 2017 is not that much detail because they kind of
but think about how insane that is. 11 years of him being a known sex offender, like legally, and then continuing to make all these relations and stuff with high profile elite people going back and forth to islands. It takes 11 years before some development happens.
Yeah, before something happens. And it's a crazy way that it pops up. So in 2017, Alexander Acosta, that was the guy that I quoted before, who said that he had to take the plea deal because he was attached to intelligence. Epstein was attached to intelligence.
Back in 2007,
stuff like that.
Yeah. Guarding the 2007 case, Alexander Acosta was asked about it,
Yeah, so he was nominated for Secretary of Labor. His handling of the Epstein case was discussed as part of his confirmation hearing. So that was in 2017. And in November 2018, so the following year, rumors circulate that Acosta was being considered as a possible successor to Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The Miami Herald published an investigation detailing Acosta's role in the Epstein case. That story revealed the extent of collaboration between federal prosecutors and Epstein's attorneys in their efforts to keep victims from learning of the plea deal. So there was a massive amount of collusion between federal prosecutors and Epstein's own attorneys. I mean, that's just so fucking disturbing.
Is that not insane that what it took was an unrelated case of like someone maybe going to be attorney general, and then so the Miami Herald comes out with an article that's like, actually let's look at a case that he mishandled, and that was the thing that was needed. Like it didn't matter until it could benefit other people politically to take down an opponent. Then it becomes a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't some kind of like government oversight where they stepped in and they're like, oh, hang on, this guy's not a very good guy. This Epstein guy's not a very good guy. It wasn't that. It was some guy trying to get power, some guy being nominated to a position, and then the media doing, you know, their job ostensibly by researching this guy, finding out about this history and bringing it back to the limelight, that then breaks everything down. It's not something that just naturally happened or anything like that. It was this.
They waited for it to be used as ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah. They waited for it to be beneficial for them. Yeah. Yeah.
Like we got very lucky to some degree that this did pop up again, because it's very likely that they could have been completely successful in covering this up forever, and we would never have found out the true extent of what happened. It's crazy. So in July 2018, the Miami Herald publishes a groundbreaking investigative series, Perversion of Justice, exposing Jeffrey Epstein's history of sexual abuse and his controversial 2008 plea deal. This reignites public outrage and opens new investigations. And then in December 2018, French authorities arrest Ghislaine Maxwell on charges related to her alleged involvement in the sex trafficking ring. And then in February 2019, a ruling in federal court returned Alexander Acosta's role in the Epstein case to the headlines yet again. The decision to keep the deal with Epstein secret until after it was finalized was found to be a violation of the Crime Victims' Right Act of 2004, CVRA, which requires notifying victims of the progress of federal criminal cases. So because they didn't tell the victims that there was a massive issue there, and that's what bubbled this up to the surface. Yeah. And then in June 2019, Epstein resigns from his private foundation amid renewed scrutiny and legal pressure. His financial and social circles begin to distance themselves. Finally, it only took two situations of this for them to be like, oh, whoa, maybe we should step back from the old Epstein, from old pedophile. I won't be holidaying there anymore.
They only did that because of the public eye on it now. Otherwise, they would have kept doing it. It's not like it was a moral decision they made. It's just more like, it's gonna be bad PR here.
Yeah, they've got photographs of me skiing at Pedophile Island. I've got to be careful. Alright, so July 6, 2019, Epstein is arrested by a joint task force of the FBI and NYPD at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. He had just arrived on a private jet from Paris. Epstein is charged with 1 count of sex trafficking in minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. How is there only 1 count of each of those?
Typically, it's because they'll build a case around a single one when the initial charge happens, and then from there they can add on. You just need to get him arrested for 1, and then you can keep piling on after
So
that.
you take the most provable things or whatever, the
Yes,
ones with the most merit, the one with the most evidence currently, and then you build the case. Well,
You prove that you can arrest him on at least 1, and once he's in, then you can start building out more victims and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So these charges relate to the alleged abuse of girls in multiple states, including Florida and New York, between 2002 and 2005. The news of Epstein's arrest sends shockwaves through the world. Victims and advocates celebrate the potential for justice, obviously, finally. And Epstein is denied bail due to concerns about flight risk and potential witness tampering. So if this was any other year, I guess, where like people weren't paying attention again, like 2009, and they were able to easily sweep it under the rug, he would have been given bail, probably, and he would have been fucking fine.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So luckily the public's focus was put on the right place for once because of like just the political landscape, like you said, Isaiah. So we got lucky to some degree here. The public, fueled by media coverage and the stories of victims, demand stronger prosecution and accountability for Epstein's powerful associates, which we haven't really received yet, but that's a story for a different day. July 19th, 2019, amid criticism of his mishandling of the Epstein case, Alexander Acosta resigned his role as Secretary of Labor. And that's isn't it crazy? That's his legacy. This Alexander Acosta's legacy is the whole Epstein thing. Crazy.
Yeah, it's so sad. Song on the world's smallest violin for Alexander.
In August 10th, 2019, Epstein dies by apparent unaliving in his jail cell. The sudden end prevents him from facing trial and leaves many questions unanswered about his crimes and potential co-conspirators. And then we come to the unaliving, the timeline
famed unaliving, perhaps the most famed unaliving in at least recent memory. I'll run through. This was my forte. This is my wheelhouse, so to speak. All right, so the description of his first few days in jail are anything but cozy. He is singled out by multiple gang members who try to extort him for money. He confides to his cellmate that he doesn't think he will survive in federal prison. On July the 18th, Epstein's request for house arrest was denied by a judge due to concerns about flight risk and potential witness tampering. 5 days later, on July the 23rd, Epstein was found semi-conscious on his cell floor with marks on his neck. A lot of you will probably remember the news reported that he had actually done it, that he was dead. And then it turned out like an hour later, oh wait, false alarm, he's not actually dead, just almost dead. This is what that's referring to. And then 3 days later, they report he is dead this time, for real.
Yeah, for real. We got him, finally.
No take backsies this time, guys. We mean it.
We double tapped, yeah.
His cellmate Nicholas Tartaglione summoned guards, saying he found Epstein harming himself with a bedsheet. A supervisor called 911, and Epstein went to the hospital, then returned to jail. The incident linked to the media on July the 24th through Radar Online and on July the 25th through AP. Tartaglione told guards that he had noticed that Epstein had a bedsheet around his neck and appeared to be trying to unalive himself. Can we say kill? Is that allowed?
I don't know. Just
we'll just keep going
unalive.
unalive.
Just stick with unalive.
Yeah. He's a meme anyway. We'll keep running with it. Trying to unalive himself. But Epstein later denied that, claiming instead that he had been attacked, an allegation that Tartaglione denied. Now, Epstein had the following accounts to different people. Inmate Tisdale said that Epstein made a strangling gesture, nodding when Tisdale asked if someone tried to strangle him. So that's one inmate saying that he was an attempted strangling. Inmate Mercy said Epstein claimed he blacked out getting water with no memory of the incident. And lawyer Schoen said Epstein told MCC officials he blacked out with no memory, matching Mercy's account. Schoen believes it was something Epstein agreed to go along with, not a unalive/murder attempt. Now, I want to mention too, all three of these individuals are incredibly low trust, right? Like 2 inmates of maximum security and a lawyer deeply concerned with this entire case, right? So I don't really take their testimonies to go that far.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't his death. This was just the first attempt, so to speak.
Yeah.
So after this, Tartaglione's lawyer sought the footage to show his client tried to save Epstein, but the Metropolitan Correctional Center failed to preserve video footage that could have shown what happened. Prosecutors blame technical errors, and this is where I get so mad thinking about the logistics of this. The first time, so the guy who's being accused of trying to kill him, Tartaglione, his lawyer says, "Well, give us the footage of this whole event," and then the correctional center's like, "Oh, sorry, video no work. Oops." On
What's
July
the point of having the fucking video cameras there?
What do you mean the video doesn't work? That's not how cameras work. You have cameras 24/7 here. If a camera went out in a maximum security facility, you would replace it in minutes. What do you mean the footage was on the most high?
Well, it was a little grainy, and they settle for nothing less than perfection.
On the most high-profile arrest of the decade. Oh my gosh! Okay,
that's what's crazy. The most high-profile case in a long time. How do you not have a guard positioned by the door at least, like the entire fucking time?
Well, they did. They did later.
Yeah, he was really good at it too. On July the 30th, Epstein is placed on unalive watch after a reported incident in his cell. This is another quote from The Spider. They would not move him from the SHU to unalive watch unless he indicated to a prison psychologist or someone that he felt a desire to unalive himself. You don't go there unless you express intent to, quote, hang up, which is prison slang for the act people believe that he was trying to do. The revelation of this the revelation of this previously unreported first instance of Epstein being placed on watch raises new questions about prison officials' efforts to safeguard their high-profile inmate. A representative for the Bureau of Prisons declined to comment on the allegation because, of course, they did.
Yeah, how crazy is it? You can just be like, no, I wouldn't say anything.
I don't need to explain myself. No. Things went wrong.
You want to explain how this is like the worst thing that's ever happened ever? No.
No, okay, thanks.
Insightful, thank you.
Also, should we change it from unalive to hang up? Maybe that's more.
Hang up's good. Hang up's good. Yeah, we'll stick with that. On August the 1st, Epstein's new star lawyer, David Schoen. Oh wait, the guy earlier who said, "Nope, I believe the other inmate that he tried to do it himself." That was his lawyer.
Yeah,
bro, I am about to throw something. I'm getting mad again, like remembering all this. David Schoen met with Epstein for 5 hours and said Epstein was future focused and not intent to hang himself up. On August the 8th, Epstein signed his last will and testament worth over $577 million. His estate would go on to sell his island and give all of the money from the wild and island
sorry,
sale.
that's a typo.
Oh, sorry. You're good. From the will and from the wild. All the money from the will.
He found all his money from the forest.
He had that dog in him, the wild animal. All the money from the will and island sale to the victims. On August 9th, more damaging documents about Epstein's past were publicly released. Epstein is taking off of Hang Up Watch due to improvements in his behavior, according to prison officials. He makes his final phone call to Karina Shuliak, who quote occupied the most significant position in his life. You'd think that'd be Ghislaine, the person who quote occupied the most significant position in his life.
Yeah, but this Karina Shuliak was romantically attached to Epstein at the time.
I see. Gotcha. Yeah, I could tell by the picture they look like buddies. Anyway, wait, was she a victim?
I don't believe so. I think she was
okay.
over age.
Then I don't like her. To Karina Shuliak, who quote occupied the most significant position in his life. Epstein's cellmate moved out, leaving him alone in his cell, which apparently you can just do in a maximum security prison. Another quote from the spot. I'm getting heated again. Remembering this.
This entire fucking case is so frustrating.
It makes you want to eat metal. Like I'm furious. Okay. Another quote from the Spider says, If there were significant changes to Epstein's mental outlook, William Mercy, his inmate, companion, and de facto hang-up counselor, missed them too. The only thing I noticed is he was eating his meals on the floor. He would just say, "It's easier this way." I didn't say anything to suggest, "Oh, he's spiraling down." And that has to be a quote from William Mercy.
What about the first fucking hang-up case? Shouldn't that have like put you on high alert? That
yeah, Mercy's the guy who claims that he absolutely, hung up on purpose, right? And then he's like, "Oh, I didn't see anything to suggest it." Like,
wait, what's that? Mercy? I think Mercy was the one who claimed or supported Epstein's claim that he blacked out getting water.
Yeah, true.
It was Tartaglione that said it was the.
Oh, you're right.
Bed sheet around his neck.
Yeah, good call.
But one thing that I think is really interesting is that they took him off of the hang-up watch because of improvements to his mood, which would have only been, I think, 8 days after being placed on it, something like that. So, like, how did he go from ready to hang up to like, "Oh, this guy's like great. I saw him smile today. Let's take him off watch."
He's ready.
He's totally fine now.
He's better easily. On August the 9th, Epstein was returned to his cell around 7:49 p.m. after meeting with lawyers. Guards Tova Noel and Michael Thomas were assigned to watch Epstein overnight. Both guards were on overtime shifts. One of them was not normally assigned to guard prisoners, was on day 5 of overtime, and the other had just started a second shift on the same day. In other words, very weird that these two were in this room right now. Neither of them should have been. They did not conduct required 30-minute rounds and appeared to be asleep at their desks.
Oh my god.
There were surveillance cameras in the general area. I'm at my limit of Epstein's cell, but not inside the actual cell itself. This is normal in most U.S. prisons. Yeah, you're not supposed to film people, to like using the bathroom or whatever.
Yeah.
2 cameras in front of Epstein's cell also malfunctioned that night. Another camera had footage that was, quote, unusable. Like
Bro.
Charlie said, nothing but the best.
I always hear like, oh, the fucking industrial prison complex in America, there's so much money pouring through it or whatever. Where the fuck's the money going? They don't have cameras apparently.
Not to the cameras, that's for sure.
Well, no,
come on.
It must be to the floor food.
I'm telling you, those were great cameras. It's really unfortunate that Epstein smuggled an EMP device in his butthole at some point and blew him out.
It's real lucky it's real unfortunate that he was an alien that gave off like electromagnetic waves. Okay. Side note, the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York was notorious for being one of the least maintained, up-to-date prisons and was even dubbed, quote, Little Gitmo. The prison was understaffed and camera malfunctions were not anything new. Even in 2021, they were still trying to get upgraded camera systems in the US. That is true. That is true. I have heard that before. However, once again, you would think that the most high-profile arrest of the past decade would have, I don't know, a guy standing near him, like
constantly
something.
watching him, something.
The guy who, according to them, just tried to hang up 8 days ago, right?
Yeah.
Like, you think one dude, a reporter, for the love of God, someone would be in the hallway. Anyway, the locked doors to Epstein's cell could only be opened remotely by an officer in the jail's control center. A second locked door was one that only correctional officers assigned had a key for. At 6:30 a.m. on August the 10th, Epstein was discovered hung up in his cell with bedsheets around his neck. An emergency alarm sounded and a survivor responded. A supervisor responded. A survivor.
A professional survivor.
And a supervisor. I'm imagining like Bear Grylls runs in the room.
Don't worry, we can solve this.
How can I help? Yeah. An alarm sounded.
On today's episode of Surviving in the Wild, we're going to show you how to survive a bedsheet attack.
It's like Epstein's like there tied up with the rope and he drops down from the ceiling. All right, I've seen this one before. Okay, an emergency alarm sounded and a supervisor responded. as Noel went to open the cell door. Guards cut Epstein down and tried to revive him before he was taken to the hospital. The first 911 call came at 6:37 a.m., with EMTs dispatched at 6:38 a.m. Confusing radio calls suggested a possible, quote, arrest instead of a medical emergency. A request was made for a defibrillator, suggesting the jail did not have one.
Because of course not.
Oh my gosh. Okay. EMTs were unable to revive Epstein at the jail, apparently attempting to resuscitate for over 7 minutes. He was wheeled to the hospital where revival efforts began at 7:16 a.m. At 7:19 a.m., efforts ceased and his death was recorded at 7:36 a.m. A 4chan post about his death came before the FDNY closed the case at 8:24 a.m. I remember that 4chan post being a big deal. That so someone, no one knows who, made an anonymous post detailing the details of his death before it was actually public knowledge, implying someone close leaked the information out, but that's just a side note. So that's the actual events of his death. I think one thing to mention, it's not really brought up here, but it's kind of understood, I think, by everyone, but just to make it clear, there are some people who view this case from the outside, and they're like, oh, well, what's wrong with Epstein dying? Like, don't we want him to die? Yes, we want to kill him, of course. But the reason he needs to stay alive is because he has so much information about not only other politicians and actors involved, but other people who are part of human trafficking rings. Like, he wasn't getting these girls out of thin air, right? So the number of evil people his information could have brought down, which is likely the reason he was killed, could have gone to save so many lives, but all of that was squandered because his information died with him.
Yeah, this was probably the worst case scenario, honestly. He didn't serve any kind of real justice. Yeah. And also he got to, well, the information, like you said, died with him, sadly. A very sad situation in that sense. Not sad that he's dead, that's obviously good, but sad that we don't get to put other people who have victimized these poor victims behind bars as well.
Yeah. So, autopsy. Chief Medical Examiner Barbara Sampson conducted a 4-hour autopsy on August the 11th, observed by Epstein's pathologist, Michael Baden. The medical examiner initially ruled the death a hang-up by hanging.
There's the scientific terminology.
Great work, Barbara. Unofficial reports said Epstein had broken bones in his neck, more common in homicides rather than hang-ups. Epstein's lawyers challenged the conclusion and said they would investigate further. They said the evidence was more consistent with murder than a hang-up. Baden said the neck fractures were more indicative of strangulation than self-death. He specifically cited Epstein's hyoid bone being broken in a way that suggested a strangulation. Neurosurgeon and CNN medical correspondent Sanjay Gupta asserted Epstein could have easily broken his hyoid bone in a hanging because of the bone's weakening and loss of flexibility with age. The medical examiner stood by her conclusion, rejecting Baden's claims. Other experts disagreed on whether the bone breaks proved homicide or a hang-up. In June of 2023, a Justice Department review confirmed that Epstein died by his own hand. The Justice Department is overseen by the U.S. Attorney General, who at the time was run by Bill Barr.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
The son of Donald Barr. The son of Donald Barr, who originally helped Epstein start his career. Bill was operating under the Trump administration, a longtime associate of Epstein's.
Yeah, so I mean, just connections on connections, really, when you think about it. How close-knit this kind of, group is at the end of the day, these powerful people. I think it's also important to note that even if let's say Epstein did commit unaliving, like he did 100%, like he wasn't murdered, if that's the case, the only people that benefit from this again are those ultra wealthy people. And the fact that the cameras are down, nobody was around and stuff, maybe they still orchestrated the unaliving by just putting him in a position where he was able to do that.
Well, a bunch of people have said that if it was by his own hand, it disproves it. But also, like, Epstein knew the score, right? You can get pressured, or he can know that the best way out for this is for him to, you know, finish off the job, right? Like, it's still the same situation.
Yeah, 100%.
It should have still been the responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen, but they gave him all the tools to do so by taking him off of watch, by the cameras being dog shit, by the guards not being present. Like, it's still...
When you think about how many failures on the chain here there are, it's like, it can't be a coincidence. There's so many different elements.
It just can't be.
Yeah. There's so many different circumstances here where even if one thing worked the way it was intended to, something could have prevented him from, you know, dying. Not being, he could still be alive today and giving information on very powerful people. So Epstein's body was claimed by his brother Mark after the autopsy, and his ashes were placed in an unmarked crypt in a Jewish cemetery next to his parents in Florida on September 5th. So that's where he's currently resting, let's say. Charlie, did you want to go over the aftermath?
Yeah, I can do the aftermath. So the prison guards on duty at the night of Epstein's death, Nova Noel and Michael Thomas, admitted to lying on prison records to make it seem as though they had made the checks, but avoided prison time under a deal with prosecutors, and they left the Bureau of Prisons in April of 2022. So those were the two guards that were responsible for making sure to at least keep an eye on him, and they didn't, and they lied about it and faced no real repercussions.
No one ever does.
Nope, no one does in this case. On June 20th of 2022, Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in jail. Absolute trash sentencing. Horrible. Should have been life. And she faces a second criminal trial for perjury on 2 charges that she lied under oath during a civil suit in 2015 about Epstein's abuse of underage girls. Each count carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. In January of 2024, over 900 pages of previously sealed documents relating to Virginia's civil case against Maxwell were made public following litigation by the Miami Herald, and further documents were released on the 4th of January. So that's what I briefly referenced with like some of the names appearing in there, like George Lucas or Bill Clinton, whose name is in there a lot. Just, I see you highlighted some names here, so I'll go ahead and just mention these in some of the documents and logs. So of some of the names mentioned, some of the most powerful are former President Donald J. Trump, former President Bill Clinton, disgraced actor Kevin Spacey, renowned lawyer and professor Alan Dershowitz, entertainer Chris Tucker, entrepreneur Bill Gates, Prince Andrew, politician Robert F. Kennedy Jr., violinist Itzhak Perlman, U.S. Senator John Glenn, and former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell. There's obviously a lot more in the logs. Again, all of that's public. If anyone's curious, you can find them pretty easily. It's all in pencil and pen, so it's handwritten. Could be a little difficult to read, but you could probably find breakdowns if you struggle to read the handwriting.
Also, one thing I want to mention, so a lot of people, like, they remember when the quote Black Book got leaked online, and a bunch of people saw that and was like, oh, well, what do we care about new documents coming out? The Black Book was never verified. That just got leaked online, and sure, like, it had validity to it, but there was no official statement giving it credibility. The significance about these recent things and Virginia's testimony coming out lately is it's the first time in a legal sense names have been tied to the events.
Yeah. But again, it's so difficult to like know what to believe and what not to believe when we're dealing with the elite here, the very powerful individuals who could ostensibly control the narrative. Yeah, they control the legal system. They really do. Like, we've got right here, one of the names is a renowned lawyer. And we got other people, like the people controlling the laws, the fucking government, the government officials. Like, it's crazy the amount of implications here, and how many conspiracies can just come from this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even conspiratorial.
No, it's not anymore.
It's just legitimate.
Yeah, it is wild because, like, sure, a lot of the names that get brought up aren't like always people who went to the island. A lot of it's people that Epstein was friends with or whatever, who probably knew something was going down. Like, who was it that said, was it Trump that was like, oh, we all knew Epstein liked him young or something like that?
I think that was a quote from Trump, like at a party in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
or some shit like that. Or no. It was in the new documents. I don't know if Trump said it about Epstein, but in the new documents, it was also mentioned for Bill Clinton saying that he likes them young.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one.
So there's so much of that, you know, like the people knew, even if they weren't expressly on the island or whatever. But what's so insane about this is I remember like being a kid and hearing stories about like, oh yeah, there's this multimillionaire who like kidnaps kids or whatever. It's like the stuff of fiction. But then it's like, oh no, it happened. You know, like it was a thing that was happening and everyone knew about it, or everyone in power knew about it, and it just happened. And we just kind of have to exist with that. It's so sickening.
It really is so fucking
So just to
troubling.
It is. And just to follow up on that, in 2002, Donald Trump said Jeffrey Epstein was a terrific guy and added, it even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them on the younger side.
That's what it was, yeah.
And then for Bill Clinton, it was referenced in the most recent documents that he likes them young. So there's two different things.
Yeah.
This goes to show a level of bipartisanship that is unprecedented. At least, like, really, it's not an either side thing. It's both sides. It's every side. This is like a whole different level.
Truly uniting the aisle, bringing us together.
Yeah. Well, it should also just go to show you that regardless of what side you're on, there's going to be evil people on both sides, and it's important to recognize that.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
So moving forward, here we're gonna do another callback here. So Leslie Wexner has also been trying to distance himself as much as possible, but through the recent unsealed documents, it alleged that Virginia was pimped out to him multiple times. And then, of course, a lot of other people downplaying their relationship with Epstein, like Trump, and then some tabloids saying that Ghislaine may have even taken some sex tapes as insurance. There's also a man named John Mark Dugan, who was a former Palm Beach cop and claims to have tapes from Epstein's home. This was during the FBI raid in 2016. He apparently got the tapes, fled to Russia, and then showed the tapes to someone named Ron Chepsiak of a young girl with an older man who he believes to be Prince Andrew. He sent the hard drive to a friend in Russia as insurance in case something happens to him, but it's unclear if the tapes are real or if Dugan is a fraud seeking attention. So there's just so much like mystery and mystique around these kind of from like all of this stuff going around on the side. According to the Associated Press, Epstein's pilot Larry Vysotsky testified that he never saw evidence of sexual activity on the planes as he flew Epstein and his high-profile passengers aboard the two jets he piloted for roughly 1,000 trips between 1991 and 2019, which is so much baloney. So baloney.
Well, to be fair, I hope he was flying the fucking plane instead of like out there like mingling with the guests.
Oh no, but even still, he would see who's coming on the plane, like young girls getting on the plane and shit like that.
Just not like la 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 la.
I was just flying a plane. I didn't know what the fuck was happening
I just fly
behind
the
me.
plane.
I go to A to B.
That's all I do. I stay in my lane. I don't pay attention.
I close my eyes when it's not out the window of the front seat.
All right, requesting clearance to land at Pedophile Island, please.
Yeah, it all seemed very above board to me. I don't know.
They all seem so nice, actually. What a great family.
What a great family. Just, you know, old Jeff, Ghislaine, and their 74 teenage girls.
Hey, don't forget Matt Groening. He's usually there too.
Oh yeah, he's their uncle. I forgot about that.
old wacky uncle Matt Groening.
Oh man.
Do you want to move into the conspiracy side of things now about like the death and all that, or do you want to cover?
Do you mind if we do the quotes real quick?
Yeah, I can take the quotes.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll read them. All right, so these are quotes. Again, these are cited from The Spider, the book again. So, talk of Trump brought back agreeable memories to the financier, and he began telling Mercy's story. So this is a story that Epstein told to his cellmate.
Yeah.
One time, we're flying in my private plane, and I was with this French girl, Epstein said, according to Mercy's account. And Trump said to me, "Why don't we land in Atlantic City and I can show your friend my casino?" I told Trump, "I'm not landing in Atlantic City. All you have is white trash down there." The girl I was with, because she was French, asked me, "What does white trash mean?" Donald Trump told her, "That would be me without money."
It's just like that line.
I'm not giving credit to the joke over it. It's just, it is the absurdity of this conversation taking place.
You know what it is? It's the absurdity of the self-awareness there as well. Like they know.
Okay, continuing, Epstein volunteered how Clinton's days as a Lothario were a thing of the past. What is a Lothario?
like a really good lovemaker, or like a porn dog.
I
basically.
haven't heard that word before, but all right, new vocabulary. We're thinking the past. He told me he can't do anything like that now because he's had a couple of heart surgeries.
Yeah.
What the heck? What the heck? Bro, it's like that guy on To Catch a Predator who said that he has erectile dysfunction so he couldn't have done it. That's what feels like. Only it's a president of the United States.
Former president, but also
excuse me, yeah.
But also just like these go to show just how connected he was with very powerful people. He's having very private conversations with Clinton and Trump about their sex lives and sex and women in general and stuff like that. So they were fucking on that plane. Not Epstein and not Epstein and Clinton and not Epstein and Trump. But like, yeah, I agree with Charlie that there was some tomfoolery going on around
that pilot who said that, I never saw anything, is like, you remember when what's that drug cartel guy, I'm losing his name right now, El Chapo.
El Chapo.
When he got arrested, and when his wife got arrested, and she said that she had no knowledge he was selling drugs or into drugs. Like that's what that pilot is, a true ride or die.
Well, I think it's just super obvious. Like if he said that he knew that was going on there, he'd be fucked. Like he has to say he didn't see anything.
True. Right. So self-serving more so than loyalty.
Cool. So Epstein's $577 million in assets will not pass from his estate into his private trust until all creditors' claims have been satisfied in a probate court. The worth of Epstein's estate will only be taxed after all claims against the estate have been settled. Most recently, a lawyer for Epstein's estate stated that the money obtained from the sale of his islands would be used to settle a number of lawsuits, which I imagine there are plenty of.
That's at least something good. These individuals, it'll never take away what happened, obviously, but at least they're getting
there is something
some
fitting
kind of
about, there is something
retribution.
fitting about his empire dissolving and the pieces of it going to the people he hurt. You know, poetically, it does make me feel a bit better. Obviously, it doesn't, equal what happened to them, but it is a nice touch. Yeah.
All right, so now we move on to the final element of this whole episode, which is we're going to talk about some of the popular theories, conspiracies, and what we might not ever know going forward. So if you guys want to take this one as well.
I'll take the second one because that's I'll just start. This is like the main conspiracy that I believe in. I'm not really a conspiratorial guy. I like to research them mainly just out of fascination, and some of them are pretty entertaining, like wacky conspiracies like secret space program and all that. But this is a conspiracy that I legitimately buy into because the official story is so unbelievable. So I truly believe that he was murdered. Epstein, being as well connected as he is to some of the most powerful people in the world and all of the dirt he would have on so many people and organizations, it'd be so dangerous to let him actually have a chance to squeal. So I really believe that his death was orchestrated by some powerful group, or maybe even a single powerful person. I think the likelihood that he hung up on his own is unfathomable with all of the coincidences that would have had to transpire. I think the official story is more conspiratorial than the actual conspiracy.
I agree. The only people that benefited the most from this are the powerful people. And in that case, they had a vested interest in making sure that he doesn't go to court. So there is really a limitless amount of people with power who are fully capable of making this kind of thing happen that were in a position to do it, So, and they're in this situation in the first place. They're obviously not moral, upstanding people. What's one more murder what's one murder going to be in the grand scheme of things, really?
I mean, also look at people like the Clintons who have like a kill sheet in the hundreds already, right? Like what's one more guy who has all this information?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't even be that hard to orchestrate since he was in such a shittily kept prison. So it would have been very simple for them, I imagine. They got him off of on a live watch within like a week, basically, without any real reason why. Like it's all ridiculous.
Think about it. Who's one of the? I mean, I'm not accusing him of doing this. I want to be very forthright of that. I'm not accusing him of doing this, but Donald Trump was head of the country at the time with a lot of connections. who controls the prisons? It's the fucking government. So, come on. There's so many, and there's obviously a whole bunch of other politicians and powerful people in Epstein's orbit that would have benefited from this, who also are able to control the government and are able to control the prisons to some degree. Like, there's just so much, like you said, him killing himself, him unaliving himself, or any other excuse is so more conspiratorial to me than this, like him being taken out of the equation.
Yeah, because to accept that, you have to just accept so many random chances with no real substantiated evidence. Like, well, why weren't the cameras working? Well, they just weren't. Well, why is this footage unusable? It just isn't. Why weren't the guards there? Well, they were sleeping. Why didn't you have anyone else posted there? Didn't want to. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, take this at face value and don't ask any questions. Like, you have to really turn your brain off to accept that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. Like, the only reasonable explanation is that he was murdered.
There was also, if I recall right, I can't remember how substantiated this claim was, but that guy, Tartaglione, the one who said that he tried to do it himself or whatever, tried to say it was a hang-up, was like found multiple times to have a cell phone in his possession. Like, they kept finding, like, and nearby, like, one of the guards was like taking weird calls during shift, stuff like that. Like, there's so many weird things that happened around the actual, like, events leading up to his death that the official narrative of, well, you know, that just happens sometimes, is insane.
You guys are giving them too much credit. Remember, when asked, they said no. They just said, nope, no comment.
Yeah, they didn't even comment on it. They didn't even explain. They're just like, do you have anything to say about this with the allegations? Nope.
I think it speaks for itself.
That's what's so frustrating. They don't even try to make, because what are you going to do about it, right? They don't need to have a good cover story.
They know they don't need to come up with anything.
Yeah, they got away with it.
Yeah.
They have successfully got away with it. I think if you polled the country, or the world for that matter, I would imagine close to 90% of people would all agree that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. And then what? Nothing. We can't do anything about it, even though most of the world, even though most of the world knows that it's very unlikely that it was the result of a hang-up. It's absurd. So of course they don't need to. The guy can just decline. Yeah, like Jackson said, I think it speaks for itself.
pretty open.
I'm just imagining the guy with like a smug look on his face as well. You know, just the most arrogant look. Yeah, well, it speaks for itself. That's it. So that's I think the most likely case. Also on Spotify, on our Spotify platform or audio platforms, I think it's just Spotify. I'm gonna put up a poll. I've been putting up polls for each of our episodes with questions based around the episode's theme and premise. This week's one, the poll's gonna be: did he unalive himself or was he murdered? And I want everyone listening on audio platforms to vote, and we'll see what the percentage comes out at. I'm very interested in knowing.
I wonder which way our listeners will lean.
I've never actually met anyone or read from anywhere someone saying that Jeffrey Epstein unalived himself.
I have not met a real person outside of a Twitter bot that has ever said that yet.
Exactly. Like, I don't think a real person exists that thinks that it wasn't a murder.
Agreed. So some other conspiracies.
Oh, can I read the one about the island? This is one of my favorite theories.
Yeah, go for it.
So, anyway, there's another conspiracy theory that his island was a government honeypot for Israel and U.S. intelligence. Of course, it says the theory is that Epstein, along with either the Israel, American, or both governments, was tasked with luring high-profile guests. He would entice them with underage girls, secretly record the encounter, and use it as blackmail to coerce anyone into doing anything. Recalling what Alexander Acosta said about Epstein being above his pay grade, did Epstein's 2008 plea include plans for a CIA or FBI honeypot scheme? So this one actually, it does have some grounding to it, especially when like undocumented reports reveal what the CIA was doing back in the 60s and like 80s and stuff. There's a ton of examples of them using like sexual coercion or trying to get some high-profile political figure to sleep with a prostitute. They even tried that with, they didn't try the prostitute directly, but they tried that with Martin Luther King. They tapped his hotel room and recorded audio of him having sex with his wife, and then leaked it as him having sex with a prostitute. Like they do stuff like that all the time, right? So it does make sense that maybe they would have someone who would coerce important figures into having these sexual encounters and then using it as blackmail. So maybe they would try that with Epstein, perhaps. He'd certainly be a client for it, and given what all the politicians said around him of, oh, I think this guy, he's above my pay grade, or I was told to back off the case, maybe there is something there. And the reason Israel gets mentioned is because he had connections to Mossad, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, Ghislaine's father was a Mossad agent. So he definitely knew people over there, and I imagine that their secret service operates much the same way ours does. Or not secret service, their intelligence networks operate the same way as ours does. So, maybe there is some truth to that.
I 100% believe it's believable to me, and it also like doesn't disprove any other theories like the murder and stuff like that. It's just more supplemental in nature, and
that would explain how he got by with so much for a while.
Yeah, exactly. How he was able to gain his power to that degree.
Yeah, it explains away some of that, but I feel like if that was the purpose of it, I don't think they would have used Epstein for it. He's way too public of a figure. Like, I really don't think they would have even bothered with that, because he'd be a powder keg. Like, he knew too many people. He was too in the limelight for, like, he was a registered sex offender. Like, I don't think they would have used him to do something like that. It would have been too dangerous, because again, he did get eventually caught.
Yeah,
I feel like they would have chosen someone that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, they would more than likely use just a human trafficker who other people aren't aware of.
But we're forgetting that Epstein had a lot of connection. Like, that human trafficker probably doesn't have connections to Donald Trump and people like that.
That is true. Yeah.
Whereas
but I don't think. I don't know. I feel like if it was a honeypot from them, whatever trafficker they would use, they would just set up the connections somehow.
Yeah, like, okay, Donald Trump, I'm setting you up with a meeting with this Jim from Honduras.
Think of it this way. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Think of it this way. It's not saying that the entire Epstein operation was him on behalf of the government. Maybe he was already doing it, and then the government picks him up, and they're like, look, you want to keep doing what you're doing? Just pass some information our way, and we'll turn a blind eye.
Well, that's the point of the the honeypot FBI scheme being introduced as part of the plea deal. With Epstein, the 2008 plea deal. They find they see that
didn't exist before.
Yeah, they see that, and they're like,
Release
okay, we can actually utilize
wild.
this.
Yeah.
In a controlled manner. Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't trust the fucking CIA or FBI or anything like that. So I'm completely like, it's believable to me to some degree. The other theory is more theories is the FBI is protecting known associates by destroying evidence. There's a theory that they are protecting people of interest or well-connected people who could be hurt by their connection to Epstein getting out. So there's a lot of pictures of like in Epstein's house, the Palm Key, is it the Palm Keys? The Florida residence, Palm Beach, Florida residence of like drawers full of like DVDs and stuff, which we can only assume is some of the worst shit possible. And it's resulted in a lot of weird dudes on Reddit writing "release the tapes," which when you think about it, it's just asking for child pornography in a weird way.
Maybe don't release them. Maybe have like one guy check those, and then we can prosecute off of that.
Yeah, not the best idea.
Is the name of the picture you have there underneath it the name that's written on the tape?
No, I think it's just the file name.
Okay, so the file name for this image is it's Teenage Homemade Porn Edit Final. So, is that what someone named this image of the tapes in his drawer, or is that what, like, the original? Because that's pretty conclusive if that's written on top of the tapes. Like,
yeah, that would be pretty strong evidence.
It's fine. It's like my naming conventions for my files. It's like final and then underscore final 2. Like like he went back to the edit, really made sure.
Yeah.
I think that it's just the movie file because this is a screen grab from a video of the FBI like touring his house. So I think that's just
that's what someone labeled it. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. And then we come to our final theory, which is obviously I think the most outlandish theory, but it is a theory that people have put out there previously that I've seen, and that is Epstein is still alive. What do you guys think of that? There's no proof or anything. It's just
Yep, I believe it. A close case.
that's the classic. It's anyone who dies. It's like, no,
No,
they
he's
didn't
alive.
actually
They're
die.
still
You're
here,
stupid if you
yeah.
think he died.
yeah.
Yeah, the people who actually believe that theory, I've heard them posit, well, because he was an agent, like, you know, Mossad or the CIA or whatever wouldn't have let him die, but yes, they absolutely would have.
Yeah.
They are not.
I mean, they would have
keeping that
wanted
guy
him dead.
alive. Yeah,
They would have wanted him dead
absolutely.
at that point. Why would they keep him alive with his secrets out there?
Yeah, his
potentially
cover's
able to-
completely blown.
be
You're never
blown, yeah.
using this guy as an agent again. Yeah. Kill him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just funny. Like, even in a story where there's so many actually believable conspiracies that aren't even like actual conspiracies really when you think about it, because they're so believable and probably true, you still have conspiracy theorists come out and like take the most fucking wild stance possible. Like, they're not content with an actual
That's my
believable
people.
conspiracy.
That's my gang.
That's such a good point. This is like the one case where the conspiracies are like the real story, and then there's still added on top of that, wait, he can do more. He's alive.
It's so fucking dumb, man.
It's so fucking dumb.
All right, so yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same page though in terms of what we believe the true theory to be, in that he was murdered. We might differ a little bit individually on whether or not we think it was a government honeypot, if that was incorporated to some degree. Personally, I think it's likely, but like, there's way less probably evidence for that than the other supplemental stuff included in the like him being murdered. I think that's the most believable situation here, just in general. Like, I think he was murdered. And again, even if it wasn't an actual, even if there wasn't, like, you know, Agent 47 in the jail cell with him strangling him or whatever, they still put him in a position again where he was able to commit suicide, which is what I classify as, you know, murder. Like, they gave him the ability to do it, so I think they wanted him dead, you know? It doesn't necessarily have to be them in the jail cell as well, even though that's entirely possible as well.
Yeah. I
I
think this
we're all
is.
on the same page in agreement.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement, and also in agreement that this story is incredibly depressing and highlights the worst parts about our society, and there's really nothing we could do about it. Unless you really want to.
Also, hats off to the Miami Herald. I forgot that they were the ones that really spearheaded everything. Without the Miami Herald, this would have never stopped.
Yeah, this would have been
probably.
under the rug forever. And when
Yeah.
you really think about what we're dealing with here, how much power and how much danger is involved, I mean, they're able to, like, kill people.
I also want to mention
that you took a lot of risk.
in just a couple Google searches I did while we were talking about it. I'm sure that there were more people involved, but it seems like the person who spearheaded that article was a reporter named Julie Brown, and it said over the course of a year that the whole thing about it began in July, like the writing of it, she took all this time to get evidence together and then release The Perversion of Justice, and then that came out in tandem with Acosta. So even though we like critiqued the kind of the journalists and systems for allowing this to go unspoken for so long, there were people trying to work on it behind the scenes who used the opportunity to get the story out there. So there is a lot of good people underlining this whole thing. So yeah, credit to them for finally doing the kickoff for this whole event. It's a shame that we couldn't, you know, nail everyone with it, but we got one of them. So
I think it's important. I think it served an important role in just showing the public, you know, these people in power are likely very systemically evil. Like, I think it's very important that it's blown the lid open at least, so that, I mean, it really, we can't do anything about it. We can't.
Holy shit.
You right?
No, sorry, I was just looking up the Miami Herald. They were also responsible, working in collaboration with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, to blow the lid off the Panama Papers.
Oh, nice.
I've heard that before.
Wow,
Yeah,
Jesus,
they were
Miami.
one of the people who did that. Yeah.
Miami Herald
I
goes
had no
hard.
idea. Yeah, wait, they really go hard. If you guys, we're getting a little off tangent. Well, I'm getting off tangent, but if you guys remember, the lead journalist for the Panama Papers was actually killed in a car bomb.
Yeah.
So, like, they really take risks. They did the Jeffrey Epstein case, they did the Panama Papers. Holy shit.
We need more of it, but I can totally understand why people are apprehensive about it when it comes to being
Yeah.
a victim of a car bomb and stuff like that. Like, there is genuine risk involved here. you're dealing with the most powerful people alive. Yeah, so if there's a, I don't know, if there's a podcast bomb that goes off and we die, you guys know.
These are all fake, alleged. I don't know what I'm talking about. What's a Mossad? I don't know. Anyway, you should go vote because that's what really matters, and also support the current thing. Yep, that's my take. Now Charlie's the one who brought all this information to us.
Whoa, no, this is Jackson from Australia. Stop.
Oh, Charlie, are you ever going to address your name being in the leaks of the Black Book? Are you going to address the moist critical log I saw in there? I think it's time to fess up.
That could be a different episode of the thread where we all talk about why the Epstein files have Jackson, Isaiah, and everyone aboard.
Look, Miami Herald's already investigating it right now.
Look, I heard that there was putt-putt on the island, and then I was really upset when it wasn't there, so I got a boat back, okay? That's it. That's all I saw. I did think, hold on, that the girl handing out the golf balls was suspiciously short, but other than that, I didn't see a thing.
You need to be short for a good mini golf, frame. You need to be closer to the ground.
See, that's what I was thinking. But then the whole reports came out that it's the pedophile island, and like it's a whole deal. So that's my defense. But yeah, you should go vote. That'll make it better.
Yeah, that'll fix things.
That'll fix it.
Always does.
That'll fix it.
Yeah.
Vote harder.
I mean, I want to know how this kind of shit starts. Like how. It has to be ingrained in the elite at some level. Like, how do you introduce a new elite person into that kind of situation? You're like, hey, we fuck kids. That's our whole thing.
So I've thought about this before, and I think what it is, how there's like, with anything we do, we're all fellas, right? The boys. And like we remember being young and dumb and wanting to get in, like doing stuff to kind of get in trouble, like drinking where you're supposed to. There was kind of a thrill about the taboo of it, right? Of pushing the limit, going where you're not. And when you have billions of dollars and you're basically immune to the law, you have to keep scaling that up, right? Like if you want the thrill of doing something you're not supposed to, then the thing you're not supposed to do has to get worse and worse. I think it's ultimately just a hedonism. I think it's people wanting to satisfy some base primal instinct that they don't know how else to. And they all have kind of functioned. Because you hear these stories really begin like in Hollywood, like back in the 50s and 60s, of young girls coming to drug parties and these big like group encounters and stuff like that. And it kind of trickled its way into politics and media from there. But it all starts with like high profile people wanting to push the edge or push the envelope, go as far as they can, and there's really not another way to do that unless pure depravity like this. I think it's just people who have no moral compass or values doing something to get their rocks off,
and surrounded by people who are also similar and are able to like positively affirm that kind of stuff and make it happen. I know. It's just like I get that angle. It's just so weird to me, like imagining like a newly rich, powerful person like being introduced into that circle, and then like there's a 13-year-old girl on the flight giving Matt Groening a massage. It's like, it's crazy. Like that's your first, like that's how you're introduced to that whole scene. It's crazy. I just don't know how they get to that point. But I get that like once they are there, like the hedonism takes over.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I think we've done a fairly decent and in-depth dive into Epstein's entire life without going into too many of the unnecessary details. But do you guys have anything additional to add?
Nothing on my end that I can think of that we didn't cover.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job. Isaiah, did you have anything?
Yeah, I'm mad again.
Yeah, I know.
I forgot about all this and now I'm upset. I'm glad we were able to look at it. I'm glad we were able to do that for the audience. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and thank you for watching. But I remember the reason I quit looking at this is because it made me very nihilistic about everything, and it's coming on again. So I'm gonna go make a sandwich and sit outside and think about how much I like putt-putt golf.
Oh. Wait, do you actually?
I mean, I do actually like putt-putt. I was not actually at Pedophile Island, but I do actually like putt-putt golf. Yes.
The way you said that, Jackson, it was like a gotcha.
Yeah, he was like, "Wait a minute, you're the putt-putt golf guy."
Charlie, you know this about me. I love mini golf. I love
I love mini golf
Oh
too.
yeah, no, Jackson is a huge fan. Of
I
mini
do,
golf.
I do, like real golfing. Like in high school, I played
same.
golf on a team and all that. So, like, I love putt-putt golf because it's just fun. It's good to play
Yeah,
with
it's fun.
friends.
It's great.
You'll come here and we'll go putt-putt golfing sometime, and
Yeah,
it
we
won't
should.
be at Pedophile Island. So
No.
that sounds
If
good.
I think when I last came to America, we went to mini golf. Where was that? Like it was near Universal, wasn't it?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
Universal because it was that alien one.
Yeah. So next time I'm over, I say we should hit up.
I would
mini
love
golf.
that. That'd be a
It's
good
it's
time.
way different over, like it's way more like high budget over there than over here. It's crazy. It's like a whole different game. It's
Well,
crazy.
around Orlando, yeah. I've also been to putt-putt courses that's like some guy's yard with like sticks
yeah.
instead of a barrier. It's like it's a 9-hole course, but you have to play the same 4 holes twice and then 1 3 times. Like,
You have to do one blindfolded. That's the
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
but yeah,
Anyway,
it'll be fun.
that's gonna do it for this episode of the Red Spread. It's been a long one, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us for this one. I'm very sorry that it's like Isaiah said, it's just a very disappointing situation all around. It does lead to a lot of nihilism. Like this is the world we live in, and we can't do anything about it. It sucks, but I think it's still important to have these kinds of conversations and dive into the details and make everyone as aware of it as possible. So I hope we've done a pretty good job at doing that and giving you guys all the information that you may have missed over the duration of the situation unfolding. So yeah, I'm very interested in hearing comments, feedback, and like I said, the Spotify has a poll, so you can head over to the Spotify and leave your input on what you think happened, and we'd appreciate seeing that, as well as you appreciate you going over to the Spotify in general and just checking that out. We really appreciate it. In general, we really appreciate you guys listening to the Red Thread. It really means so much to all of us. The support has been overwhelmingly positive and it's just fantastic. I love doing this show. It's a lot of fun to dive into cases and see some of the more interesting details emerge, and I hope that comes across to everyone in the audience. Other than that, just yeah, thank you. Do you guys have anything final to say?
No, thanks everybody.
Thank you all so much for watching. It means the world. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again so much to my co-host for being here. I really do enjoy doing the show. Even when it makes me sad and unhappy, I'm still so happy to be here. Wouldn't be anywhere else. So thank you all. For it. It means a lot.
Thank you. We still can have some fun.
We
which
can
is
still
nice.
have fun. Even with
yeah.
Pedophile Island, we can have some fun. But not in the way most people
Don't
do.
say
with
that. Don't say it
Pedophile.
like that. Don't say it like that. Not like that. No.
For the mini golf. We're here for the mini golf.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time on the Red Thread.
See you in the next one.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
of financial management. Quite a few people dubbed him a genius, saying that he had a talent for synthesis, that rarest of intellectual abilities where one is able to cross-connect and interrelate across a range of disparate disciplines and combine them to arrive rapidly and accurately at understandings or solutions. Of course, there were many dissenters from this view, notably one man who said of Epstein that he'd never received a straight answer from him and that it was all smoke and mirrors. He told Vox, "I never saw any brilliance, I never saw him work. Anybody I know that is that wealthy works 26 hours a day. This guy plays 26 hours a day." Well, it just sounds like he's doing better than you, doesn't it? Because he's getting rich. Like, one thing about Jeffrey Epstein, very, very, very rich. And he doesn't seem to be working very hard, does he? So, seems like he's got you beat on that one. Why am I defending Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, it feels dirty. Because it is. For every person claiming that Epstein was some kind of ethereal genius, there's another who characterizes him as a dumbass poser. It's not been possible to find anyone who ever traded with him, and of the many scientists and intellectuals that Epstein held dinner parties with, more than half reports that he didn't know what he was talking about and spent more time trying to look smart than adding to the conversation. One of the best ways to look smart, though, is to be quiet. Like, if you open your mouth, people know you're dumb. If you don't open your mouth, they don't know you're dumb, and you just kind of look mysterious. Like, I guess Epstein maybe discovered this later. Like, if you're around smart people, just listen to them and ask questions. It makes you look smarter than you are. Pro tip. It's what I do, and it's why everyone thinks I'm such a big brain. His work at Bear quickly had him in charge of billions of dollars in funds, and Epstein was the kind of financial manager who wasn't shy about his own ambitions for wealth. Leslie Wexner, the founder of Limited Brands, a huge company which includes Victoria's Secret in its holding. Oh, it's Victoria's Secret. In my mind, I always had Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret makes a lot more sense. Made Epstein his financial advisor and helped him to build a fortune for himself. It's interesting that in a world where reputations are cemented by prestigious client books, every client other than Wexner was kept a closely guarded secret. It's possible that this is because there weren't any others of note. Epstein appears to have built his fortune on being Wexler's water boy and then scamming and brown-nosing his way into a space where anyone at all could become rich simply by talking to people and being in the same room. This is a bit contradictory because we had the dude earlier being like, you gotta work 26 hours a day if you want to be rich. And now we're saying like, no, you just gotta go to parties and chit-chat. Sounds a bit easier, doesn't it? Regardless of his actual ability, there's no doubt Epstein wanted to present himself as a lofty thinker. He was a keen patron of the sciences, forking out millions in grants and gifts for cutting-edge research. Research which some of his beneficiaries claimed he actually understood, unlike many rich patrons. As for his money management, he was out of there well before their spectacular failure in the GFC and was running his own firm. Global Financial Crisis, GFC. I didn't know we were acronyming that. He considered himself a kind of financial architect, according to New York Magazine, who quoted one of his writings saying, "I want people to understand the power, the responsibility, and the burden of their money," which is odd. Yeah, I feel so burdened by money. Money's always such a burden. Where to put it, what to buy. What a burden. One thing I definitely don't feel since having more money is more burdened by money. Having no money is definitely more of a burden. What are you talking about? Which is odd, as Wexler apparently hired him to find out who was stealing from him and then claimed Epstein had stolen $46 million from him too. It seems both of these men were a little odd, with Wexler acting as Epstein's patron and Epstein hooking Wexler up with dates and party invites. The characterization of Epstein as Gatsby is apt. It was a shadowy man, lauded by some of his acquaintances, but in a curious way, not really containing any substance, and it's clear from his own comments and writings that other people didn't really exist for him as people either, which might be a clue as to why he was willing to inflict such appalling abuse on so many children and young women, and yet he still seems so utterly convinced he hadn't done anything seriously wrong. Yeah, well, that's just the big mark of a psycho brain, isn't it? It's like, yeah, no. Always bring it back to Pedro Lopez. He's probably like, it's okay to kill children. They're just small. It's like, Pedro, what are you talking about? It's like when people really don't even have a grasp on simple, basic morality. Like, I'm not the most moral person ever. I'm not some, like, saint of morality. But there is some that you just know is wrong, Jeffrey. Jesus. Or you should know is wrong.
No.
A note on sources. Epstein's day job took him all over the world. He owns private aircraft, airstrips, and real estate across Europe and the USA and its territories, and would spend his time scouring the world for investment opportunities. His passion project, though, was recruiting, grooming, sexual abuse, and the rape of young girls at an average rate of 3 per day. What the actual f***? I had no idea he was so prolific. I think Jeffrey Epstein's one of those things, it's like, well, it's like I feel with this podcast, it's like I don't really like these things. They're generally unpleasant. And so why would I naturally expose myself to this? But it's like I haven't read a ton about Jeffrey Epstein because I'm like, well, he's a horrible person. I don't want to read about all the nasty shit he got up to. 3 a day blows my mind, you f***ing sicko. Activity at this level of intensity obviously requires an industrial scale operation to service it, and the sheer scale of it, as well as the high profile of some of the people involved, means that there's a whole bunch of misinformation and disinformation out there, so we just need to make a quick note about sources. First up, the main sources used for this are victim testimonies, legal documents, and investigative reporting. Victim testimonies are taken from the handful of victims who've chosen to go public, but some information is also taken from anonymized statements and depositions included in the Florida indictment, the Virgin Islands DOJ complaint, various civil suits, and Palm Beach police interviews. The legal documents are the NY Southern District indictment, the Virgin Islands DOJ civil complaint, the Maxwell depositions, and other depositions unsealed through civil actions against either Epstein or his estate, and various civil complaints filed in several US jurisdictions, particularly those alleging Epstein's infamous Florida plea deal was unlawful, and it was. Oh my god. One thing, Jeffrey Epstein had a lot going on before he died. He had a lot of lawsuits. The main reporting comes from the Miami Herald, especially Julie K. Brown, who deserves much of the credit for finally ending Epstein's run. More on that later, and a variety of tabloids who brought victim stories and churned out accounts of court proceedings as the hearings went on. As well as this, there's a number of hit pieces, puff pieces, and highbrow intimate profiles on Epstein of the kind that occasionally get done by broadsheets and snobby magazines. Sources and avenues include anyone with a whiff of tinfoil hat. This isn't just prejudice, the fact is there's no need to turn to these people. Sticking with sworn, authoritative, and credible sources uncovers an actual, provable conspiracy and strongly suggests another one involving some of the world's most powerful people. Oh, I'm getting excited now. This is going to be intense. There's no need to go off the reservation to explore the potential involvement of people like Prince Andrew or Alan Dershowitz, or the extent to which the US establishment, including law enforcement agencies, either turned a blind eye or were complicit in Epstein's offending. It's pretty clear, actually, that an operation of this size couldn't have survived without at least the tacit consent of a big chunk of the top end of society, and mainstream sources reflect this reality. So don't get buttered if we don't entertain the idea that corporate and Hollywood elites were using Epstein to harvest the blood of children for satanic sacrifices. The actual picture is bad enough, and we won't be shying away from it. Yeah, this is like, why do we need to say that he's doing satanic sacrifices? The that he got up to is totally wild. If it was less, obvious, and there was settlements reaching stuff with, like, Prince Andrew and if that wasn't, people would be like, that's a conspiracy theory. I'd be like, I don't believe it. It's the Queen's son. Are you insane? He'd never do. He's got so much to lose. Would put shame on his whole family. That's crazy. And then it's like, no. Turns out, oh my god, the Queen's son? Absolutely mad. You don't need all the extra crazy It's already crazy. In fact, the reality of Epstein is possibly a clue as to where some of the ideas of QAnon actually come from. The kernel of truth within the construction of myth, so to speak. Other sources I've excluded are partisan. We will talk about Bill Clinton and Donald Trump as they're an important part of this story, but I've excluded opinion merchants and political operatives who obscure and elide facts to exaggerate or downplay the involvement of prominent Democrats or Republicans. The reason for this is simply their selective facts and outright lies just cause confusion. And finally, for boring legal reasons, it's important to say that Epstein's first conviction was laughable, and as he died before he could face the second batch of charges, some of this material constitutes the sworn allegations of plaintiffs and witnesses in various cases, and may not be covered by the guilty verdict returned in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. I've got a pronunciation guide for Ghislaine Maxwell. I thought it was Ghislaine. Let's just go with Ghislaine, because I'm assuming Chris actually looked into this and I've just heard it wrong. Doesn't matter, but even though there's no comprehensive Epstein conviction, the Epstein estate has set up a fund to compensate victims, and there's little to no denial of the stated facts of the case, which saves Simon having to put 700 allegedlys in front of statements that we're pretty sure are true, but have not been proven. Yes, important legal disclaimer. I'm probably going to throw in a bunch of allegedlys anyway, just because it's powerful people with lots of money. Perversion Inc. Now let's imagine you're a middle school girl, generally as happy as any teenage girl can be, and living an ordinary life. Or perhaps you're at the start of an extraordinary